Football is the easiest sport to play, but the hardest to actually be good at. So, for all intents and purposes, for you Americans out there, it's soccer that I'm talking about, that type of football. But for this video, because the name of the sport is football, we're going to talk about football. So, I actually have not done this before. This is episode like 316 or something like that. I don't even know the number because I've done so many podcast episodes. Like, I'm making a podcast for a whole year, and it's basically I'm here and it's episode whatever, over 300 episodes of the show. I haven't actually made an episode breaking down specifically what it means to be good at the sport of football and giving you that deep dive. So this is what today's episode is going to be about. I'm giving you that deep dive. I'm giving you that breakdown, that analysis, and that specifically, like the specifics of what it takes to be good at the sport of football. That was my life, right? It's not really my life as much anymore, but I was in the midst of it for a few years. I was going through it, grinding, hustling, trying to make it happen, trying to make it as a pro. I didn't make it, but I was in professional environments. I was at a high level of training. So I have a lot to say when it comes to like the things that you need to do and the skills that you need to have to be good at the sport of football. So what I mean by the start of the first sentence that I said in the video, football is the easiest sport to play. You just grab a ball, $20, or sometimes you don't even need a ball. You can just like have like some small ball or like some foam ball or something like that. And then you find a tree or you find a fence or even you play on the street. You play in your shoes or you can play in your socks or you can play barefoot, whatever. And then you just go, you kick it around and you play, right? It's the easiest sport to actually get down and physically play. And a lot of other sports you need like all this equipment and stuff and maybe you need specific things. Right, but with football, you can get shoes and make a net with shoes, and you can play barefoot on the street, and you just need a ball or something that can, like it doesn't have to be a real ball, it can be like a foam ball, that kind of thing. It's very easy to just get down and play, but it's hard to actually be good at it, and it's hard to actually be at that professional level or that super high competitive level of the sport and actually succeed at it. It's a completely different thing. And out of all the sports, football is the hardest, in my opinion, because I've played it, and I'm going to break down why. Because there's so many skills and so many things that make a good player versus other sports. It's like some things are a lot easier than others. But it's the easiest sport to play, but it is the hardest sport to be good at. So, my previous content journeys work will be put together in the ultimate guide today. If you didn't know, I literally spent over a year basically just making football content. While I was in the midst of trying to be a pro, I literally made a bunch of football content. This show and literally the same account, the same channel that this show is on used to be my old YouTube content for just posting football videos, football clips, and football advice and my training montages and all that kind of stuff. I would put on this channel, and I had an Instagram for it, and I had a TikTok for it. So, but then I stopped doing that because it kind of was dying down. It wasn't really working for me, and I was kind of moving into different things in my life, and also trying to lock in to train a little bit harder on my actual journey. But the point is, I talked so much about it, but during this era of content creation, during the 365 podcast, which is a completely different thing, I haven't actually given that full breakdown yet. I haven't actually like taken all of what I've learned from that time and put it into one detailed, complex, well-made, well-organized video as instructions as to how to be good at the sport of football. So that is what I'm here to do today. Finally, after all this time, after literally like pretty much a year since I was on my, maybe not my last trial, but since I was at the end of my time in Portugal, I'm now coming back and I'm finally actually going to break that down for you, and I'm going to put it all into one video for you. So, the main thing when it comes to how to be good at the sport of football is the 4 pillars. The 4 pillars, you might have heard of them. You might not have. If you haven't, I'm going to break it down. Don't worry. So, the 4 pillars of football, I'm not going to say, I'll say what they are. It's the technical side, the physical side, the tactical side, and the mental side of the sport of football. And I'm going to break down what each and every one of those mean in this episode, because that is essentially what it means to be good at the game of football is have all of those qualities, and you need every single one of these qualities. Maybe you can get away with not having 1 or 2 of them if you're in a certain position, right? For example, if you're a goalkeeper, you don't have to have the best endurance, for example, because you're not running as much. But you need to have a little bit, but not like not like a midfielder where you literally are a fullback, you're literally running back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You need to have that high level of endurance, just as an example. So sometimes you can get away with not having all of these skills if you're in a specific position, but to be as good as possible, you want to have every single one of these skills. And if you do have every one of these skills, you will be good. You will be a formidable player. People will talk about you and be like, "Yo, that guy's good. That guy freaking knows what he's doing," right? You'll have the chance maybe not to make it pro, but you'll maybe to make it pro, but also to just play at a good competitive level where you're able to compete and you're able to be good and hold your own when you're at that level. You might not be there now, but that's okay. That's why I'm going to be talking about what makes a good footballer. So let us start with the technical side. The technical side is probably the easiest to explain. It's what you do with the ball, right? It's how you can it's ball manipulation. It's how you manipulate the ball to your advantage. So things like dribbling, passing, shooting, ball control, headers, tackling, being able to make the ball do what you want it to do or make it go where you want it to go. That is the essence of what the technical side of football is. Of course, it's being able to move the ball in the way that you need to move it. So for dribbling, it's like keeping it close to you, right? Being able to dribble past people at an extreme level, skill moves, right? Step overs, elastico. It's like, can you do a roulette or an elastico and actually do it well? Like make the ball go where you want to go, like that, right? Like in roulette, like around a player, or with an elastico, one side to the other, right? That's good technical ability, right? Being able to dribble and do skill moves like that. But also it just means to just be able to keep the ball close to you if you're like driving the ball up the field, for example, not under pressure, being able to keep it close to you and have control of the ball, keep it within your space. Like when you're there, you have your little space, and then sometimes you might take a touch that's too heavy, and then you have to kind of lunge a little bit, or maybe like sprint a little bit, like to get to the ball again. It's not in your control. It's not within your space of gravity, I guess. It's not within your gravitational pull, within your aura, for lack of a better term. Like you need to keep it within close enough to your body where you can reach it without having to lunge, without having to kind of increase speed. Like whether you're under pressure or not from another player, that is what good dribbling looks like. Passing can mean on the floor with the instep of your foot to someone who's close to you. It can be a low driven pass with your laces, or it can be a long ball either in space or directly to someone with your laces in the air. And they're two different skills, two different things that you have to train, but two different types of passing. It can also be crossing into the box, which can be with your instep or with your laces as well, to actually try and get it to your striker, to the guy that's in the box for a goal. Those are different types of passing. Or if you have a free kick and you're crossing it, you can use your instep to curl it in the air, or your laces to kind of get a driven shot in the air, right? To curl it is of course the ball. You're hitting the ball with a certain part of your foot that allows it to move in a certain way. So with your laces, you want to hit it directly, so it goes direct. With the instep of your foot, you want to hit it maybe on the side, like on the side of the ball, where I have, like, it would be easier to have a demonstration in real life, but hopefully you understand what I mean, where you make the ball curl into the box, into a player's path, let's say. That's what it looks like to cross the ball well, but it's just another version of passing. Shooting, it's accuracy with your shots, being able to actually shoot on the net, get into the corners of the net, but also, of course, like to score goals, you need to be able to shoot. Whether it's with your instep or with laces, usually the rule is if you're close to the net, instep, but if you're far away, you use your laces. But sometimes it's like if you're like sometimes you want to do a power shot, like you shoot with your laces because you really want to make sure it goes in. Of course, you got to be careful because the more power you put in, the less control you can have over the direction of your shot. So it's good power, but also good accuracy with your instep in the right situations, but with your laces in other situations as well. That's what makes for good shooting, accurate. That's how you score goals. Of course, ball control. Ball control is, for example, if someone kicks the ball up in the air, can you touch the ball down and keep it close to you, right? That's another big aspect of it. Whether it's with your head, with your chest, with your thigh, with your foot. Different parts and different ways where you can control the ball. Like if the ball hits super high in the air, can you touch the ball, keep it close to you, or like on a more advanced level, can you just touch the ball out of the air and make a pass, for example? Like just right one touch, right? When you do keep ups, that's why when you train keep ups, it's an important skill to have because it works on that ball control, it works a little bit on that coordination. Again, you're trying to make the ball go where you want it to go. In a game, there will be many situations like that, especially like if you're at like a lower level, there's going to be, if people aren't playing out the back, let's say, and they're just booting the ball along, you're going to have a lot of moments where you're going to have to control the ball like that. Can you do it? Or every time you take a touch, it hits your shin and it goes to the opposition, right? So that's also a big part of it. And that's why like training keep ups, for example, is a good way to kind of work on that stuff, to work on your touch, just your touch, your ability to control the ball out the air and then turn it into something where you dribble or you pass to someone, you make something happen. And headers are super important as well. Headers are hard, right? Even for me, the headers are hard. Like, can you, when you have the chance to header, can you direct the ball with your head, similarly to how you shoot with your feet? Can you direct the ball with your head to where you want it to go as well, right? Whether it's a header shot where it's across in the box and you have to head it, direct it towards goal and try to score, or if it's like a defensive header where you're trying to clear it, or a defensive header where like the goalie boots the ball high up in the field and you're just trying to knock it down so that it doesn't get past you, right? Because think about it, if you're a center back and the goalie boosts the ball up in the air, a rule is you don't let the ball bounce. If you let the ball bounce, there's more of a chance that someone else gets it, or it just bounces over your head and gets past you. And if it gets past you, then some guy, if they're the other team, they're there on a breakaway. If they're quick and if they're agile and if they're fast enough onto the scene, they'll be in on a breakaway towards your net. So it's crucial as a defender that you get to that ball first, and you're going to be getting to the ball first with your head. So can you control your header and get it and move it in the right direction? That's also a part of ball control and the technical side, and tackling as well. When someone is dribbling towards you as a defender or like as a midfielder or in any situation, if someone's dribbling towards you, he's trying to take you on, can you time your challenge, whether it's a standing tackle or a slide tackle? Can you time your challenge where you meet the ball at the same time, and can you win the ball? That's basically the same thing. It's also technical because, again, you're trying to win the ball, you're trying to take the ball from someone, and whether it's you're just trying to poke it to get it out of play, or you're trying to actually like win it so that you can turn and go do something else with it, or you're just trying to delay the game, like maybe just get a foot on the ball to delay the game, to stop the guy from actually moving forward so that you can get your team can come back and help you out. That kind of a thing. But regardless, it still falls under the technical side because it is involving you and the ball. That's basically what it means. It's like if it involves the ball, it's the technical side of the game. So all of those things make up the technical side. You need to be able to be good with these things, regardless of the position you're in. As a striker, like there's different levels, right? As a striker, you have to be better at shooting and scoring goals than maybe you'd have to be with passing, right? As a defender, you'd have to be better with passing than you maybe have to be with dribbling, because you're not, as a center back, you're not going to be taking people on. As a winger, you probably have to be better at dribbling and crossing and long balls. And maybe crossing, like as a center back, it's maybe long balls are maybe more necessary. But as a winger, for example, you need to be better with, like as a winger, actually, you probably need all three, right? You need shooting, you need dribbling, and you need passing the most, right? Most balanced, because you want to be able to cut inside and shoot, or move on the outside, cross it in, or just take a guy on, right, and make it happen. So different positions have different levels of how much you actually need these skills. But it's better to be well-rounded and have all of these skills. And the better you are with the ball at your feet, the better you'll be able to be calm in situations. And, of course, I'll talk about that kind of thing as we get along with it. But also to be able to be competent and, of course, to have your teammates, they can be confident of passing you the ball knowing that you'll do something good with it because you got good technical ability, which means that you can pass accurately, you can shoot accurately, you can be able to dribble and not lose the ball for your team, or like for yourself, keep the ball. So that is what the technical side of football looks like. Everything that has to do with the ball, keeping the ball, and just competence when it comes to the ball at your feet. And what you do with it, making it go where you want it to go, making it do what you want it to do. The more advanced you can get with these skills, the better you will be when it comes to passing, when it comes to dribbling, when it comes to shooting. And how you train it is basically by training it, right? You train your shooting ability by just taking shots over and over again, trying to hit the same corner in the net over and over again from different angles. You train crossing by literally going to the wide part of the pitch and crossing balls into the box. Maybe have someone to train with, or multiple people to train with. You train long passing, and I've done a lot of this type of training because I'm a center back. I'm a fullback, so passing, long balls, that's a lot of stuff that I've spent a lot of time training. You then just train the long pass. You train the motion of just driving the ball long. As a center back, you want to do that laces direct in the air across the field, switch the ball, right? Whereas if I'm in a fullback position, you want to actually be wide and train the actual crossing into the box. It's a different motion. It's a different thing that you're looking for when you're doing those things. So when I was in the midst of my training, I'd be doing a lot of that type of training, a lot of passing and a lot of dribbling, and just focusing on skill moves, keeping the ball close to me. And I'd be when I'd play pickup games, just taking people on and being able to pass them, because it's all important. So the way you train it is and similarly, that's pretty much everything. The way you train is by doing it, right? It's by constantly doing it so that you can eventually get to the point where maybe if your mechanics aren't so good, you can fix your mechanics, like how you actually approach the ball when you shoot, when you make a pass. That's something I had to do I had to do a lot because my mechanics sometimes would lead me to not hit the ball the way you want it to, right? So you have to train that by just constantly, by that repetition of just doing the thing. And the more you do the thing, the more you can be confident at your ability to do it in a game scenario. And then obviously that makes you good. Like it makes you good at being technically sound with the ball at your feet. So to train ball control, you do keep ups, or you kick the ball in the air and you just train your touch. Can you keep the ball close to you? That kind of stuff. So that's how you train it. That's what it looks like to train it. But that's the first pillar of football, the technical side. What happens with the ball at your feet? What happens with you and the ball? What can you do with the ball? That is the technical side of the game. Very important, of course. It's very important. But all four pillars are equally important. Well, except for the final pillar, which I'll talk about, which is the most important. But the technical side, that is what it is. So then you move on to the physical side, the physical exertion, the physical side of the game of football, which is maybe where the most debate is. People who play other sports will be like, no, yeah, soccer's so easy, man. Like, you just need to kick the ball in the net. No, because there are so many other things that come with it. Everything: strength, speed, power, coordination, jumping ability, aerial ability, agility, reaction time, and cardiovascular endurance. So, quick motions, quick movements, and also long-term motions and movements, right? Sometimes, like in the game, it's like you're on, you're off, you're on, you're off. Sometimes you need to sprint towards someone. Other times you're just jogging around trying to be in a good position, right? So sometimes you're going fast, sometimes you're going slow, but for the most part, you're always moving, right? For the most part, you're always moving. So strength when it comes to maybe if you're competing with someone for the ball, like a 50-50 challenge, whether in the air to be able to actually shoulder someone out of the way, or on the floor to do the same thing, on the actual ground to do the same thing, to actually be able to shield the ball. Like if you're a defender, you shield the ball, and you use your shoulder to bump people out of the way. You need to actually be strong, not just upper body, but with your legs, because you're driving from your legs to push someone out of the way, to be able to keep the ball. And you hear the term like you muscle someone off of the ball, which is like sometimes you don't even need to make a calculated tackle. You just need to put your body in the way of someone. Being strong allows you to do that effectively. And also it involves shot strength too, right? Like, can you pass the ball? Like, do you have a strong kick, right? How hard can you kick the ball, right? When you make a pass, you take a shot. Also in part of strength and part of power as well. Of course, shot power. Speed, of course, you need to be able to sprint when you need to, and you need to be able to be fast, because if there's a ball over the top, or like a ball that's kind of in the corner and you're competing with someone for it, you need to be faster than them. You need to get there. You need to be able to have the ability to sprint, but you also have to be physically fast when you're competing with someone for the ball, for like a kind of 50-50 ball type of thing. Or if you get dribbled past, to sprint back and get back into position and recover, right? Recovery runs are super important, right? That involves speed. That involves, of course, the endurance that it takes to actually sprint back and get back into position. The discipline, the defensive discipline, when it comes to actually getting, like if you get dribbled past, to get back into position. And power, of course, as I've said, shot power. Power can really be defined as exerting force quickly. So the quick movement, that is power, right? The quick hard shot is power. The quick, like a high jump is also a use of power as well. Like if you're able to jump super high and win the ball in the air with your head, right? That is also the use of power in your legs. So you need to have that coordination, right? You need to keep your balance and your coordination, right? Like sometimes someone can nudge into you, right? And like they use their strength on you, and then you can be put off balance. Can't you need to be able to stay upright? Don't fall on the floor. You fall on the floor, they're done. You're going to be dribbled past, or they're going to win the ball off you, whatever, right? And if you're dribbling at someone, and like you need to have the balance to be able to get around them, right? Like you need to be able to balance on one foot, and like kind of if you jump in the air, you need to be able to land on one foot and have coordination and have balance. And also, yeah, the coordination also comes in the way you run, right? The actual mechanics of how you run and how you actually use the ball. How it applies to the technical side, again, all four pillars are apply to each other, because the technical side is like you need power and strength to have good shots and good passes, and you need coordination and balance to be able to dribble properly, right? Sometimes, like I know sometimes people that just don't have that coordination, they'll like they don't. For example, like you should lock your ankle, right? When you're dribbling or when you're making a pass, you should lock your ankle. That's a great way to actually make it more accurate. Some people, they just kind of flail it around, and then the ball goes wherever, right? It's not even like there's no control there. It involves that coordination with your actual body mechanics, the physical side of your body, your legs to be and your feet and your ankles to actually have that coordination to do it properly. So that's how it applies to that, but it's also a super super important part of the game as well. And yes, the jumping ability, you have to actually be able to jump high, right? The higher you're able to jump, the more like aerial balls you'll win, the more headers you'll win, the more duels you'll win, and the more duels you win, the better, because that means you're preventing the other team from scoring, or you're giving your team a chance to win the second ball, right? Whatever position you're in, you should be able to jump high and be strong to compete in the air or on the ground. And agility is defined as being able to change directions quickly, right? There's so much of this in the game, and it involves coordination and balance, and it's all in unison, it's all in tandem together, right? Like you need to be able to just plant your foot on the ground and turn quickly at times, whether with the ball or without the ball. More importantly, without the ball, right? Because if someone, like again, I'm a defender, so I use more defensive examples than offensive examples, but someone's dribbling at you, and he's good, so like he does a couple quick changes in direction, and a couple good dribbles and a couple good skill moves, and then he like changes his speed to go, right? You as a defender need to be quick to match him, turn, and you use your agility, you plant your foot and you turn to go with him so that you don't get beat. You don't get beat on that quick change of pace. You can stay with him, stay tight to him, so that eventually you can get your foot and make a tackle, or you can muscle him off the ball, or get him to make a mistake. It involves agility, right? The ball goes over your head, you need to be able to turn and run quickly. So all of these things are involved when it comes to it. And reaction time, right? If something happens, like for example, a goal example, right? Someone takes a shot and it takes a deflection, right? And it's like it goes like this and then it goes like that, right? As a goalie, you need to have the reaction time to change your reaction, right? You're diving and then like you like change it, right? You move to one way and then you have to react, right? Because there are many moments in the game of football like that where you make a pass or you have a shot and it gets deflected and a little touch makes it change direction. You need to be able to react to it, and so that you can get there regardless of where it goes. And of course, like that's physical, because like the reason that is a physical thing is because that's something that's like you don't really train it as much, but your reaction time will get better if you improve your strength, power, agility, coordination, balance. Naturally, your reaction time will get better because now you have the physical capability to be able to get in the right position when the ball gets put into a specific place, or the ball changes direction in some way. That's kind of how you train that. If you have all the other stuff, your reaction time just naturally gets better. And of course, endurance. Fast-paced things, but also slow-paced things. And in the game of football, for the most part, if you're playing 90 minutes, you're probably going to have to run 8 to 10 kilometers during a match. Some of it's fast, some of it's slow, some of it's walking, some of it's just standing there catching your breath. But but like it's different speeds. You need to be able to adjust to different speeds, different times. So it's different levels of training, it's different energy systems of your body at the same time during a game of football. So your cardiovascular endurance is crucial. So all of these things make up the physical side of football, and they tie into the technical side, because really you cannot be technically good if you don't have the kind of physical foundation. And maybe, like, I'm thinking about this, maybe I should have put physical first and then led it into technical, but obviously with the game of football, it starts with the ball, of course. So I'm thinking, you know what, yes, let's start with technical. But yes, the physical side is super important when it comes to connecting to the technical side. If your physical attributes are good and strong and you train it, you of course train it by being in the gym, by doing resistance training, by working on your cardio. It is actually the simplest form. There's the simplest developmental formula for improving your physical traits. Out of all of the things in football, it's the simplest to improve your physicality, because you just train in the gym. It's just gym training, resistance training combined with cardio. And yes, out of the four, it is the absolutely most easy, like not easiest, but simplest. It's not the easiest. Nothing's easy. When you're training hard, it's not easy. It's always going to be difficult. You're always going to have to push through those kind of difficulties, that tiredness when it comes to training, things like that, especially the physical side. But you will need all of these physical traits to be good, but it is the simplest to train. Just like what you need to do to train it, you train strength by working out in the gym and training resistance training. And it will apply to your game. You train speed by doing short sprints and different sprints. And also that kind of touches on endurance as well. You work on endurance by maybe more longer term cardio sessions and running sessions. You train jumping ability. Best way to do that is like use a resistance band, and you just jump, and you just have to try and jump as much as possible. Like squat jumps, right? Also trains your strength as well as training your jumping ability, your aerial ability. And you train coordination and balance through single leg exercises, and through like it's more like slower pace things. But there are very simple and easy ways to train the physical, but it's not easy. Of course, it's going to be physically exerting. It's going to be hard for you to get there, and you need to be at that level of training. That's the level of training that I was at, where you're having that combination of the technical and the physical. When you think about it, when you're training to be good at football, that's where you're training, the technical and the physical. The other two, it's more of like you're learning the game basically, and it is kind of more like a mental thing. But but technical and physical side of football, it is a physical thing that you are training, and it is a thing that you are going out, you're going to the field and you're working with the ball at your feet, or you're going to the gym and you're working out, or you're going to the field and you're working out the physical side as well by doing sprinting, by running and with the ball at your feet. Or if you're playing pickup games are probably the best way to train, because you're just kind of in there, right? You're in there, and you're doing those things in a competitive game, not as competitive as a real match, but still competitive enough where you're playing against people. You're having the opportunity to dribble past people, to make good passes, to, of course, to run around and stuff. But you can't do that on its own. You have to, of course, do a lot of like a combination of other types of training as well. But the technical and the physical side, when you go out and when you're doing like a training program and a routine to be good at football, to actually get to that level, the level that I was at, the kind of training that I was at, that is crucial, that you work on both technical and physical. So when it comes to training hard for football, you gotta train hard, and it's like, you do two times a day, right? You're working on one thing, or you're working on the next thing. You're working on something in the gym. You're doing something on the field. You're doing something maybe more exerting, which is like resistance training or cardio, and then maybe you're doing something less exerting, which is like your balance training, right? Your balance and your coordination training. You do two a day, pretty much. That was like during the peak times of me training. That's what it was. It was two sessions a day. Some days in the week it would be one session, but every single day I was training. Very rarely would I have a rest day where I literally do nothing. My quote unquote rest days would be like, I'd still do like an ab workout, for example. I do like core training, and core training is important, right? Because your balance and pretty much everything you do, and your movement, your agility, starts with your core. It starts with having a very, very good core, which is your abs and your lower back, because that's the center of your body, and where everything else moves starts from the center and goes outward, rather than starting outward and coming inward. No, So it starts with the core, and core training is also super important. It's an important part. I actually didn't write that down, but I'm actually adding that as a part of the physical side. Being able to have a strong core. It's not about having a six pack. It's about being able to maintain balance when you're knocked off balance, and that is due to your core strength, right? Being able to stay upright is your core strength. So even on a day where I'd be doing a rest day, I'd still do like an ab workout. I'd do core training. So I'd never have a rest day. It would be 2 times a week, and sometimes 1 time a week, or whatever. Sorry, 2 times a day. Sorry, 2 times a day, every day for the week. Some days were 1 time a day, but every week would be looking like that. And that was when I was at the peak of my training to actually try and make it pro. You don't have to train that much, but if you want to get good at the sport of football, that's kind of the thing that you got to be thinking about. That's kind of the type of training that you got to be thinking about. Is that exact, like, you're working on stuff with the ball at your feet, you're working on those repetitions, and you're working on the physical side. And then, of course, when you come home, you work on the other two, which I'm going to be getting into. But it is less of an actual, like, exertion for your body, the other two, than the first two. The first two, technical and physical, are more of an exertion of your body. And of course, proper recovery is a super important part of the physical side. It's maybe like a side part, like this is like a sidebar, like just side like disclaimer. That's like, yeah, you got to be training hard, but you need to recover. Sometimes you'll be super sore, and sometimes like it increases the chance of injury when you're training and you're just super ultra sore. I mean, and then you can lead to overtraining, and I've definitely fallen into that kind of accidentally. I've trained too hard many times, where you're just super sore to the point where it's like you do like a movement and it's like you feel like a sharp pain because the soreness is too bad. You're increasing the chances of injury, you're increasing the chances of muscular tears, and you have to have recovery. So recovery is by stretching. You should stretch before and after every exercise. That's something that should just be a given. But you should also do things like mobility work, do things like using just resting sometimes. Sometimes you just want to lie down in your bed and like just extend your legs, going on walks, and exercise that sometimes is less exerting but still kind of contributes to recovery. Things like that. You want to incorporate those types of things into your training as well. If you're of course, if you're trying to train to be good at football, that, like, hypothetically, that's what you would do. You need to have good recovery as well, because you're really increasing the chances of injury. If you're just going, training, it's very easy to fall into overtraining. And I know that, and I say that because I myself did that. Even if I do my best to recover all the time, I myself fall into overtraining so often. So often, especially during those peak times. And actually, like, here's, like, again, sidebar before I get into the next pillar, like, story which is pretty important, is it's like I almost was injured going into my trial a year ago when I went to Spain. A year ago, I did a football trial where I was preparing for. I was going to do it. This was my plan to try and make it pro. I was in a pro environment and I made it there. But I almost didn't because I had an ankle problem, and it was an ankle problem that stemmed from me just putting so much weight and so much pressure on it and training so much and being out there so much that it ended up being tough. So my final couple weeks of training actually weren't that good because I was like very like light on my ankle and I had to kind of recover it a little bit. So I went to the trial with the sprained ankle. And I had to do kind of everything possible to make sure that it was good. And eventually it was actually good. Like, I got lucky that I ended up being able to be good. Like I'd be able to, like, put some cream on it, wrap it up, tape it up, all that stuff, and then be in the game and it not hurt. And so I was good. So I got lucky that eventually it wasn't that bad, but it was almost terrible because of me overtraining. And so I almost I almost didn't have the chance. And there was actually someone on the trial who had that happen to him. He hurt his knee, he hurt his knee and he was trying to fight back. He had already pre-registered for this trial and he was going to go on it no matter what, but he injured his knee like 6 months before and he was trying to train and get himself ready. But then first couple of training sessions with the team in the environment, he couldn't continue. So he actually had to go home. He was actually sent home because he literally couldn't continue because whatever it was, whether he was overtraining or whether he just had an injury and couldn't recover from it in time. I know my injury was smaller than his, but it was a result of me overtraining and it almost messed me up. But thankfully, I managed to balance it out enough where I was actually able to get in there and do the trial. And it was a great trial. I had a great time. And I really played some of my best football in the end on that trial a year ago. So you got to be careful, and you got to recognize that recovery is important, but to be good at football, you absolutely have to do a lot of training in the technical and physical aspects. So the next pillar of football, the third of the four pillars is the tactical side. So the tactical side is your understanding of the game. It's important. You can have the other two things, but actually, like, you're still not good because you're not in a good position, right? You're not in a position. You're not standing in the right place. You're not able to anticipate the game because you don't understand the game. So the tactical thing is you watch games of football. You watch the professional games. You watch the Premier League. You watch the World Cup. World Cup recently just finished, and you see what makes the game like what makes the game, right? How you can play well in your position, whatever your position is. What people who are the best in your position do to be good, and you have to actually understand the way the game works and understand how it goes. That's super important, right? Because you can have the other two. You can be great with the ball at your feet. There are people that are great with their ball at their feet, but all they do is they just dribble. They don't know when to pass. They don't know when to shoot, and then their decision making isn't good when it matters. And there are people that are super good physically, so they're good at like being a defender, but they don't make the right pass because they choose the wrong option. Again, it's decision making on the field that is very important when it comes to the tactical side. So it starts by understanding the game. You have to understand the game. You can have those other two, but if you don't understand the game, then like the other two won't be used to their highest potential. So the tactical side includes positioning, offensively and defensively, with the ball and without the ball, your formation, man marking, communication, and decision making. Those are the aspects of the tactical side of the game. So positioning is where you are on the field, right? Like where you're standing, right? Where other people are standing. You should be able to not even have to look up. You need to know that a person is there, because that is, like, for example, center back pass to the fullback. Like, that's like the easiest pass for a center back. Is a center back, you play it to the fullback. You shouldn't even need to look up because you just know where they are, right? Because your knowledge of the game is that good that you just know, okay, he will be there in this position. And the best players, that's it, right? They know where they want to go before they even receive the ball, because they know where the players are, because you're looking, right? You're scanning. Scanning is super important. And what would scanning be? Like, scanning, checking your shoulder before you receive the ball. I'd say that it's a tactical thing because it's part of decision making. It's part of, where you want to go before you get the ball. And that's what the best players at the highest level do. Is they know where they're going before they get the ball, so they make the pass right away. But they know where everyone is. They're scanning, they're checking their shoulder, they're making it happen. So positioning, you need to be in the right position. Like, you need to get open, right? If someone is on you, you need to get and find the spaces where you can be in a position where someone can pass you the ball. Or you're looking up and you're finding other people that are in the position, and you're looking for other people's positionings, and the person that is in the right position, you give them the ball, right? Because you're moving, right, in the game of football, you're moving the ball around and you're trying to create a goal, right? The best way to do that, and I think what's been proven, is your ball on the floor, right? Playing out the back. That's all tactical, right? When the goalie plays the center back and the center back plays the fullback to the midfield, to the winger, to the midfield, to the other side, and then they go forward and they come back and they score. That's like the perfect example of playing out the back. It's a perfect example of like tactics gone right. Very rarely does that actually happen because obviously you remember the other team are trying to stop you from doing that, right? So, but being able to do that and playing out the back ball on the floor is a very you have to be very tactically astute, right? You need to actually understand what you're doing and where you're positioned, regardless of where you are on the field, right? Goalie to the center back, to the fullback, to the winger, like, or to the winger, to the midfield, to another midfielder, to the other fullback, to the other center back, midfielder, winger, striker. Like, that's like the best goal you can imagine in football, is like every single player touches the ball and you score, right? Like, it very rarely happens. Like, I've only had it in my type of game. I've definitely a couple of times we've had some very, very good playing out from the back things, but it's only happened like a few times, handful of times throughout my life where we were able to make that type of thing happen. But formation, right? Where are you in your formation? 4-3-3, 4-2-2, those types of things. Where do you stand? Where do you go? And also something that's important is formation. You don't want to just be in your same spot every time. You can rotate with people. If you're man marking someone, you have to follow your guy. right? Sometimes you fall into that trap where it's like, oh, it's a 4-3-3, so you're a center defensive midfielder, so you have to be there in front of the center backs. No, actually, as a CDM, you have to be moving back and forth. Like sometimes when I had to play CDM, I was tasked with literally man marking a guy, so I literally went with him. I went with him everywhere. I went with him. When he went to go receive the ball in the defensive end. I was with him. When he was on the wing, I went with him. Sometimes that's the case, and you need to know, you need to be good tactically to be able to do that, right? And other people on your team need to be good tactically. That's where communication comes in. That's where man marking comes in. Communication is like, you're going here with this guy, so you have to tell your other guy, hey, cover for me, right? Or you're communicating because you're calling for the ball so that the person knows where you are so that he can pass it to you. It's also part of the tactics because if you're good, communication allows your tactics to be good, and kind of good understanding within the team allows your team to do well. So it starts with you, with the tactics, but obviously football's a team sport. It's not just you, right? So to be able to have that understanding with your teammates, the communication with your teammates, can allow the tactical knowledge and the tactical kind of just like expression, really. Like your team will just be better, right? Because you're communicating, you're doing things, whatever it may look like on the field. You're making the passes, you're making the combinations, you're making it happen because you have that chemistry, that understanding with your teammates. And yes, man marking. Let's say off of a corner, right? That's also a tactical thing, right? Do you mark the zone or do you mark your man? Those are things that are talked about, right? What do you do if they play short? What do you do if they play long? For example, right? You need to know what things are happening, right? You need to be able to listen to your coach and be able to execute the role that the coach gives for you, whether it's a specific man marking role, if you're marking the zone, your formation, your positioning, where you are. You need to know where you are on the field, and at all times you need to know where you are, where everyone else is, and how you can combine to play a good game, right? To create a goal, to score your goals, and to prevent the other team from scoring the goal, right? That's essentially the essence of the tactical understanding of the game. You learn that by watching the best players do it, and by actually, when you watch a game, analyze what they're doing rather than just watching to watch it. You watch and you analyze. And that's how you build the tactical understanding. But the tactical understanding can get super nuanced, and it's like, obviously, it's like the best players and the best coaches, they have these like crazy complex systems. But you as a player, you need to be good enough and have a good enough knowledge of the game to understand what would happen if you were in such a complex system. Because then you're going to play in your game, whatever your competitive game is, you're not going to be at the level of the pros. Your system is going to be way easier to understand, and you can apply that to your game to be good on the field for yourself and to help your team do better to win. So that is the tactical side of the game. Those are the essence. That's the essence and the things that are involved in the tactical side of the game. All that stuff I'd put towards tactical. Like the checking your shoulder, the knowing where to go, the knowing where your teammates are, the being in the right position yourself on the field to create a goal and to stop the other team from scoring a goal. The final of the 4 pillars of football is the mental side. You can have all of that. You can have the best technical ability, the best tactical understanding of the game, the best physicality. You can be an absolute beast in all of these other realms, but you can still fail, and you can still not be good at the sport because mentality is 80% of the game. All of those other 3 things, super important, but that is 20% of the game of football. The other 80% is the mental side, is your mentality. This is the most important of the 4 pillars because this is what makes champions, winners, people that are successful versus wasted potential. The mental side. And I had a coach that said that exact thing, that mental side is the 80% of the game of football. It's an 80-20 split. It's not 50-50. It's not 25-25, 25-25. It's 80 for mental and 20% for the other 3. Because mentality is the most important. You can have all that, but then you get onto the field and you're nervous and you let your nerves take you over, and then you make the mistake anyway. You can be the best, but when it matters most, you don't step up because you let your mind take over and you don't have a strong foundation in your mind. You don't have that mental discipline to make it happen. Right? Like many players fall into this trap of they train super well and they're the best player in training, but then in the game they're nowhere to be seen. That is a mental thing. It has nothing to do with their ability, it has nothing to do with their physicality, it has nothing to do with their understanding of the game. It is a mental thing. They're mentally fragile. They let one mistake hurt them, or they let the nerves of the game just kind of take them over. And again, I speak from experience. I say this because I know that in the games where I'm nervous with the ball at my feet, I end up making that exact mistake that I'm thinking about trying not to make. I make that exact mistake. But when I'm actually confident, when I'm actually locked in, when I'm in that flow state, when I'm in the zone, I'm actually great. Like I played some of my best football at the back end of last year, the end of last season in Portugal, and then in the trial when I was in Spain. Played some of my best football because I eventually, in moments, overcame that mental block to just go and play my game and play what I know and do what I know how to do, and I was able to do very well. But it is about overcoming the mental side of the game. So, it's overcoming the nerves. Before the games, you'll probably always be nervous. But what champions think about is they look at their nervousness and they say, my body is just preparing me to be successful, right? I'm just excited, right? I'm just in anticipation for it, right? When you're nervous, when you have those butterflies in your stomach, right? Champions look at it from that mindset, and then they do well as a result. Losers, and, well, for lack of a better term, right? Losers and people that are not going to be successful in the game, they let that take them over. And again, I myself have been hurted. I have hurt, and I have done terribly. I've had terrible games because I let that nerve get the better of me. But when I would not let that nerve get the better of me, I would truly be just as good as I would be in training. And that's kind of where you want to be, right? Like, you want to train hard so that in the game, you can play like you do in your training, but you train so hard that you're playing well in the game, right? You fall to the level of your habits, right? You fall to the level of your training and your routine. If your training is high, you should be better in the game. But sometimes you can train super well, but not do well in the game because you didn't train the mentality. So it's overcoming the nerves. It's about being bold, right? No fear, right? You need to make that bold pass because that's how you're going to make it. You need to kind of be able to split the lines of the defenders and not be scared of making the mistake and not be scared of mishitting the pass and giving it away. Because if you're scared of making the mistake, you will make that exact mistake that you're scared of making. But if you're bold, if you're courageous, if you go and you make it happen, you will make those good passes and you'll be a good player, because what makes a good player, you will take that risk in the game. Because that mentality is like, okay, I don't care, because if I take this risk and it pays off, great, it's going to go well. But people that aren't strong mentally will say, if I take this risk and it doesn't work out, we're going to lose the ball and then they're going to score, right? But then that's going to happen, right? Because you're in your own head. So or you'll just move the ball forward without any direction, and that won't be good for anyone, right? So bouncing back from an error or conceding a goal, that's mentality, right? If you concede a goal and then you're locked in, right? Like a lot of teams, like you can look at Argentina at the World Cup, mental monsters. Their mentality was so good because they literally had to wait to concede a goal before they locked in throughout the whole tournament. Basically, they conceded a goal and then they decided to lock in. But that's mentality. How you bounce back from an error, how you bounce back from the mistake you make, or how you bounce back from conceding a goal is your mentality. If you just roll over and die, then that's bad mentality. And again, it's your team, right? It's not just you. You can be good mentally, but if your team isn't mentally good, then it's like sometimes you will concede a goal and your team will just roll over and die. So lifting your team up is also a part of the mental side. Are you a leader? Can you be the person that says, when you concede a goal, all right, let's go, guys. Don't worry about it. Keep going. Forget about it. Let's go. Let's bounce back. Or are you the guy that kind of just doesn't say anything, that just kind of is like, well, that sucks, right? But to be a good player and to be good mentally, you do have to be able to lift your team up, and you have to be yourself good at bouncing back as well. Super important in the game of football because sometimes teams only win if they score first. If they concede, they lose. But sometimes teams only win if they concede first because they're always able to bounce back. So ideally, you want to have somewhere in between where obviously you can win when you score first. You're able to keep the lead and keep yourself mentally strong. Don't switch off. Also part of mentality. When you score, don't switch off and let the other team onto you, but keep going to get a couple more goals so you can have some insurance and some comfortability so that you can win the game. But if you concede first, to be able to bounce back and score goals and to kind of claw your way back into a good position to give yourself the chance to win the game as well. It is all about your mentality. So there's the individual side of the mentality, which is your nerves before the game, your fears, not wanting to make the mistake, and how that actually hurts you. Whereas just having the confidence, being in that flow state, just being in the zone, focusing specifically on playing your game, super important. It makes up 80% of the game because, again, you can make a mistake because you flail at the ball. Because even if your coordination and your technique and your mechanics are perfect, your being nervous, your mind focuses on the nerves, so then you lose that technical ability. Like you like whatever happens, your legs kind of go like numb sometimes. Like you make a pass and it's like it doesn't go where it wants to go because in your mind. It has nothing to do with your actual feet. It doesn't have to do with your ability. It has to do with your mind. So that's why it's 80% of the game, because when pressure is on, can you perform the same way you perform when there is no pressure? Because there's no pressure in your training sessions. There's no pressure in team practices. There's pressure in the games, though. So can you perform under pressure? If you can, great mentality. And that's the type of mentality that will make champions, that will make you good at the sport. But that's why mentality is the most important thing, because you can have all that other stuff and still fail because your mind's not right. And when your mind's not right, and when you're nervous, and when you're too focused on those anxieties and those things, and the making the mistake and the fears, then those exact fears will be realized, and those exact mistakes will be made, and you will not be playing good, right? You will not have a good game. But if you go in with that confidence, you go in with that mentality, and of course, even if you have nerves and your fears, you overcome them, and you say it's okay. We're going to do this, and we're going to do well. Positive self-talk. Then that makes for a good player, and that makes it so that technical, physical, and tactical training that you put into your routine can be realized to its greatest potential because you have got your mind right. But yes, positive self-talk. When you make a mistake, or when your team makes an error, what do you say to yourself? Every situation that happens in the game, what do you say to yourself? If you make a mistake, you'd be like, no, I made a mistake. Oh, no, right? Or do you say, all right, it happened. Let's keep going. Let's move forward, right? Big difference in mentality. Big difference in what will actually happen in the game based on your mentality. So your individual mentality and your team's mentality. Your individual tactics and your team's tactics. At some point, you can't control what the rest of your team does. You can only control yourself at some points. But in the game of football, it is a team sport. You can't, usually one player doesn't win the game for you. It is a team effort. So the more that you can lift your team up, the more that you can help your teammates also get to a good level as well, the better. But it does also, of course, start with you. So if you want to be a good football player, these are the things that you have to think about, and these are the things that you have to work on. So it's the 4 pillars of football broken down as specifically and as just intricately as I possibly could have broken them down, talking about every single thing that makes a good player. If you lack one or a couple of these things, you will not be a good player. Of course, if you lack mentality, doesn't matter how good you are in the others, right? Mentality is the most important. If you lack the tactical understanding, doesn't matter how good you are in the other things, because you're going to be found out. You're not going to be in the right position. You're not going to be able to read the game well, and you're just going to, it's just going to hurt your team, right? They're all important. They're all important. And yes, if you don't have good technical ability, you're limited in what you can do. Maybe you can get away with being good with just good physical and tactical and mental ability, but at some point, it's like if you need to make a pass and you genuinely can't make the pass because you don't have good technical ability, then that's not good for your team. And if you don't have good physical ability, of course, you're just going to be muscled off the ball super easily. You're going to lose the ball super easily, even if you have all that other stuff. Like even the players that are good but are super skinny, they're not strong, but they have the other aspects, which is the agility, the low center of gravity, the endurance, those kinds of things. So in football, you need all of it. That's why it is the hardest sport to actually be good at. It's the easiest to just go and play with your friends and just have fun. But it is the hardest to actually be good at because you need all of this to be a good player. And you see with the pros that make it big, they have all of this, not lacking a single one of these qualities. At most, lacking one or two of them, but compensating because maybe some other quality is so much better, right? Yes, there are some players that don't have the best speed, right? They don't have the best speed because sometimes that's like a natural thing that you can't really control sometimes. So they make up for it with a extremely high level of tactical understanding of the game so that they don't need to be faster than someone. They're just in the right position, in the right place at the right time. That's a skill. Being in the right place at the right time. Sometimes that's the case. So sometimes you can lack one of these things and still get away with it, but you have to compensate by being so much better at another aspect. So the game of football involves all of this. And this is everything. Everything when it comes to the game of football. If you want to be good at it, if you want to be a good soccer player, if you want to be a good footballer, you need to think about each and every one of these things that I've talked about today. And maybe even still and then some. Like there's so much complication. It's literally like a game of chess. It's so complicated. There's so many outcomes. There's so many things that can happen in the game. You need to be ready for anything. That is why it is the best sport in the world. That is why it's the most played sport in the world. And that is why it is the hardest to make it pro. And that is why it is the hardest to actually play and be good at it. Because all of these things truly apply at the same time. So how good you are is based on how good you can be at all four of these pillars. So that is it for this breakdown. That is the point of it all. I hope you enjoyed it. I do want to say one final point is like, for me, what I look at myself and how I relate to these four pillars. Technically, when I was a kid, I wasn't very good technically, but I trained it. And now I'm actually pretty good with the ball at my feet. And I can do a lot of things that I wasn't able to do when I was younger because I trained it. That's why I talk about training it, because I know that I did it myself and I succeeded myself. The physical, same thing. As a kid, I was super skinny, lacked a lot of the qualities. Maybe there's still some things where I can improve on the physical side, but I'm still way, way better than I was before. And the tactical side, of course, tactical side is probably my best out of the four because I know the game. I know the game. I've been in the game for so long, and I can understand certain situations and just kind of where to go and where to be in every single situation in a game of football. And I can play in every single position. Like my main positions are center back, fullback, but I can absolutely play in every single position because I understand the game. And I have played in every single position throughout my life. So I understand what to do and where to go in those positions. So I think tactical of the four is the one that I'm the most astute at. And the mental side is, of course, the thing where for me, it's like I either have it or I don't. If I'm locked in, then I'm great. Mentality is amazing. Sometimes, though, I do let the nerves take me over at times. And, of course, I play bad as a result. So those are the four sides of the game of football. For me, that's how it relates to me. And that's why I talk about all these things. Because I've gone through it. I've gone through the hell of it. I've gone through really being as deep in the weeds as you can possibly think of, training these four things. Literally, like doing the 20 hours a week of work, right? Not like technical side, physical side, 14 hours a week, and then the rest of it working on tactical, working on mentality. How you work on mentality, you can't really work on mentality other than just like throughout your days, being positive. Positive self-talk throughout your day so that in the game, you can also have positive self-talk. But a lot of mentality is just you got to be thrown into it, right? You got to be in that pressure situation and just overcome it, right? It is just understanding the principles and then being thrown into the situation and then just being the type of guy that can make it happen, right? Mentality, there's not as much of a formula to train as the physical side or the technical side or even the tactical side. But mentality is the most important. 80% of the game, right? So that's how it applies to me. And of course, me being the guy that talked so much about football and me being the guy that tried to make it pro, these are the things that I learned from it. And that is the breakdown and detailed formula of what it means to be good at the sport of football. If you have these things, you will be good. And you will actually be a great player, and you will be able to do very well for yourself in a competitive environment. So thank you for watching this episode of the 365 Podcast. I hope I broke it down in as good of a way as possible. This is probably as deep as I got into the weeds of this, because obviously I haven't done it at all on this show yet. So now I've done it for you if you're trying to make it in football, if you're trying to make it pro, or if you're just trying to get better. You can apply some or all of these things that I've talked about today to your routines. And now you know, if you've paid attention in this episode, now you know what it takes to be good at the sport. It's the easiest to play and to just get a game going with your friends, but it's the hardest to actually be good at, the sport of football or soccer, whatever you want to call it. So thank you for watching. If you did enjoy it, please, I ask that you like the video, subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify. I put a lot of good effort into this episode. Hopefully, as you can tell by the structure of it and by the specificity of what I went through and what I specifically talked about. So I hope that you enjoyed it and that you are still here. If you are still here, thank you for being here. Just being here and watching the episode till its end, I appreciate you for it. But also, if you can show your support on the show, it would be much appreciated for the effort that I put into this episode, this detailed breakdown on the sport of football and what it takes to be good at it. So leave a like, subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, watch some of the other great episodes that I've made across this show, across the over 300 episodes I've already made so far. But I'm going to continue to be going with the 365 days until I get to a full year of podcast episodes every single day. So thank you for watching this episode of the 365 podcast. Continue to glorify God every day throughout your life. And hopefully this episode can help you be better at the sport of football. So thank you for watching. And as always, I will see you tomorrow for the next episode.